Hey everybody, it's summertime. Summer is my favorite time of the year. And for kids and teachers it's summer. What leader gets a summertime? I don't know. I remember that being one of the hardest things I had to digest when I stepped into the leadership role. However, welcome back to the Lead with Love podcast with Dr. Q, where we talk about love, leadership, and real life lessons that actually matter. This smile is definitely a summertime smile. On episode 22, we're going to talk about performance reviews that actually build people. And if you're here right now, you already know what I'm going to say. It's not by accident. You're supposed to be here, right here with me. So let's jump in. Okay, y'all. It's that time of the year. Evaluation season. For some, you already had them maybe, but performance review season is here. And I know what that feels like on both sides of the table, getting one and giving them. And I remember my very first formal observation as a teacher. I was nervous. I had planned that lesson within an inch of its life. And afterward, I sat down with my principal expecting some good feedback, expecting to be told what I did wrong, what I needed to fix, how I could get better, what the rubric said about my performance, etc., etc., etc. But instead, she came back to my classroom. She did not sit me down with the form. She just taught. She took over my class and she showed me in front of my own students what the lesson could look like with a different approach. I was flabbergasted. I said, I like that word. She did not tell me. She showed me with me. And when she handed the class back to me, she said, I see the effort. I see the heart. Now let's grow your craft. I didn't feel evaluated. I felt invested in. And I went back to work the next day, determined to be better. Not because I was afraid of the rubric, but because somebody had believed in me enough to not tell me, but show me the way. That is what a performance review can be. Not a verdict, not just a score, but is it an investment? And by the end of today's episode, you all are going to understand why traditional performance reviews often can destroy the very thing that they are trying to build. You will see how the Just Care framework transforms evaluations into growth conversations. And you will also walk away with a practical approach to giving feedback that builds people up instead of shutting people down. So, are y'all ready? Let's talk about kind of how things used to be. Let me name what performance reviews actually are and what they used to be, even when leaders do them with good intentions. Okay. Um, Essentially, a performance review is a year event. It's not a one-time thing, which it used to be that, which means that the feedback is either so delayed it's lost its meaning or so accumulated that the person feels ambushed by it all at once. No, you need to spread it out. They are built around a rubric. Some people use different rubrics, okay, or rating scales, which puts both the leader and the employee in an inherently transactional frame. The whole conversation can become about the score, not about the person, not about the growth. The score. And they are often sometimes entirely one directional. The leader is talking, the employee is listening, and the leader evaluates, and the employee is just evaluated, right? But there's very little space for the human being sitting across the table to share what they are actually experiencing, what support they really need, or what they have been carrying that may have affected their performance. Y'all, that's what it should be. According to Gallup's research, only 14% of employees strongly agree that their performance review inspires them to improve, inspires them to be better. Just 14%, which means 86%, if you take 100 and you might subtract 14, 86% of people are going through evaluation cycles every single year, and they are walking away from those conversations either very uninspired, unchanged, or actively discouraged. And we wonder why performance doesn't improve after the review. At least hopefully you're even getting a performance. I remember sometimes people wouldn't even get them. But the problem is not that leaders don't actually care. I don't want to say that. Most do. The problem is the structure. And when the structure is broken, even the most well-intentioned leaders will produce a broken result. So here is what changes when I believe you bring the just care into your evaluation process. Just care, y'all. That's how we lead with love. Just care. How do you lead with love in evaluations? Let me tell you. Undo your tie first. Before you open a single rubric, before you reference a single data point, start with the human being. Ask, how are you doing? And actually mean it. Ask what this season has been like for them. Ask them, what are they proud of? People cannot receive feedback from someone that they don't feel safe with. And the first 5 minutes of that performance conversation should be entirely about connection, not evaluation. And when people feel seen first, then they can hear what comes next. And we need them to hear what comes next because we need them to get better. Next, take time to listen before you talk. Most evaluation conversations are like 80% leader talking and 20% employee responding. I want you to flip it. Flip it. Start with questions. How do you think this year has gone? What do you feel you've done well? What do you wish you had done differently? Let them self-assess themselves before you begin to assess them. And you'll be very surprised. You'll be very surprised at how honest people are when given genuine space to reflect. Reflection is where the magic happens. And often they already know what they needed to work on. They just need a leader who trusts them enough to ask them. Next, affirm, acknowledge, and account for. In that order. Y'all know that this is the triple A from the Just Care framework. If you haven't gotten your book, get it. And it's the backbone of a feedback conversation that actually is going to work. Start with affirmation. Speak specifically into what this person has done well and who they are becoming as a professional. Not, hey, great job. No, be specific because then it's genuine. Name the behavior, name the impact, claim evidence impact, then acknowledge their effort, not just the result. People need to know their hard work has been seen, even when the outcome may have not been perfect. And only then, go ahead and move into accountability. Name the area of growth very clearly, very specifically, and with a plan attached. Not you need to improve your classroom management. You need to improve your customer service. No. Here is what I observed. Here is what I believe is possible. And here is how I'm going to support you in getting there. Y'all, this is some good stuff. Then communicate with clarity and care. Say the hard thing. Do not bury the real feedback in so many affirmations that the person leaves confused about what they actually need to work on. And that is not kindness. That is avoidance, wearing kindness as a costume. But say the hard thing with love because it is in the hard thing that we get better. That's where we grow. And say it in a way that communicates, listen, I believe in you enough to be honest with you. I'm not telling you this to hurt you. I am telling you this because I think that you can grow and I'm committed to helping you get there. And if you are in education, they've got to get there, because if teachers don't get there, if employees of schools, staff don't get there, then children won't get where they need to be. And that is our jobs as leaders, to ensure that we say the hard thing with love. Now, I want to go back to what my principal did for me in the very first year, because I think it is probably the most underused and most powerful feedback practice in leadership. Escúchame, por favor. She showed me. She modeled. She did not just tell me what to do differently. She showed me. She got in the room. She demonstrated what the expectation looked like in real life with real students. Right there, y'all, that leaders, you will get so many cool points because you're not talking about it, you're being about it. And in my book, I write about this very clearly. One of the most common leadership failures is telling people what to do without showing them how. Be more data driven. Improve your communication. Differentiate your instruction. These are the what's. But if people already knew how to do these things at the level of excellence that you are describing, then you wouldn't be there. They would already be doing them. The gap is almost never motivation. No, it is almost always knowledge and the model. They don't know how. And when you give someone feedback in an evaluation, offer to show them. Come back to their classroom. Come back to their office. Sit beside them at the table and walk through it. What it looks like. Help practice with them. Allow them to practice with you. Let them see you do the hard thing that you are asking them to do. And that single act does more for trust, but more importantly, respect. Do you know how much respect you would get? And growth than any written evaluation ever could. And that should be actually happening throughout the year as you're giving feedback. The survey data in my book says this very clearly, that when leaders modeled excellence instead of just critiquing it, people described those moments as not as evaluation, but as mentorship. This one participant, she talked to me about it, not at me, but she didn't point fingers. She provided solutions and examples. That's what one participant said. Y'all, that's the difference between a review that breaks people and a review that builds people. That's the difference. Your action step this week. This is what I want y'all to do. Look at your evaluation or feedback process. If you've already done it, it's okay. It's not too late. Where does listening come in? Where does modeling come in? Where is the AAA, affirmation, acknowledgement, and accountability woven into the conversation? And if it's not there, rebuild it. If you've already done them, do it, change it for next year. Your people deserve a process that grows them, not just grades them. Those of you that are in evaluation season still, take heed. So before I let you all go, you already know. Lead with Love, 8 heart-centered strategies for exceptional leadership. It's available. Y'all get your book. I know that you may have other books that you're reading, but listen, acknowledgement, affirmation, and the AAA accountability is the approach that you want to use in your feedback. It's going to transform you and give you feedback, allow you to give feedback at every level. And next week, we are going to talk about spring or summer fatigue, because it's very real and it's coming for your team right now. And there is something that you can do about it, because some of you are still working. Your teachers that are not teaching, let them go and have great summers, but they still have fatigue. And my principal did not have to get in front of those students that day. She could have just kind of handed me a rubric, a score, and sent me back into the room, but she chose to show up differently. And 20 plus years later, I am still talking about it. But more importantly, I am encouraging leaders to do the same. That is the power of a real, true performance review that is done with love. It doesn't end when the conversation is over. No, it lives in the person who received it and how they show up the very next day, the next year, and on. And eventually, it's how they will lead others. And you have the chance to be that kind of leader in every evaluation, in every conversation that you walk into. The kind whose feedback that people remember, not because it hurt them, but because it changed them. I like this episode. Thank y'all so much for joining me on the Lead with Love podcast. If this message spoke to you, y'all know what to do. Please, y'all share it with your friends. Share it with a leader who has evaluation season coming up or that's in it right now, because their team deserves feedback that builds, not that breaks. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss episode 23 next week, leading through spring, summer fatigue. And remember, leading with love isn't a one-time decision. It is what? A daily choice. Yes, it is. And until next time, y'all know what to do. Lead with love. Happy summer, everybody.